What's up everyone, DKRACK here, about to react to another video for you guys, and it's currently about 10 minutes to 11 here, Tuesday night, and I'm about to check out a creepypasta called Sally Play With Me. Now I've seen this creepypasta video recommended here and there by the same guy. I apologize, I didn't go back and find the comment. I just remembered you wanting me to check this out. So shout out to you. You know who you are, who wanted me to check this out. But like always, guys, I'll have a link to the original video down below. Let's go ahead and check this out. Sally Play With Me. So, I don't know.
The summer was nice and warm that year. The sun, as always, brought warmth to your skin. The light breezes that swept through the neighborhood made the days not so hot or cold. It was simply perfect weather.
That's how it is here in Illinois now.
Sally will never forget.
Nice weather.
Sally was a young girl, 8 years old, long, curly brown hair, and bright green eyes. She was always polite, she never lied, and did as she was told. Her mother and father simply adored her. They couldn't ask for a better daughter. Sally giggled as she played with her friends outside of their home. Various games like hopscotch and jump rope, even dolls and tag. Sally's mother smiled warmly at the innocent sight and wiped her hands upon her apron, calling out, "Sally, come inside now, it's time for lunch." Sally looked up from her doll and smiled. "Okay, Mommy." Sitting down at the dinner table, Sally lightly bounced in her seat, excited for who knows what. Her mother placed down a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with the crust cut off, some carrot and celery sticks on the side, and nice juice to drink. "Thank you, Mama."
Sounds like a
welcome,
lunch.
As the child began to take hold of her sandwich, her mother took a seat across from the girl and smiled, watching her eat. "Guess what? Your Uncle Johnny is coming over." Sally looked up and smiled. The corners of her lips had traces of peanut butter on them. Uncle Johnny?" she replied through her food. Her mother laughed and nodded. He's coming to help Daddy with his job, and to look after you, too. Maybe all of us can go to the carnival, too." Sally chewed.
I have a bad feeling there's something
"Can Sarah and Jenny come, too?"
weird about Uncle Johnny. I have a bad feeling.
That's up to their mom and dads to say, but if they can, sure. Again the child giggled and bounced in her seat again, now even more excited for this year's summer vacation. Over the course of the next few days, Uncle Johnny drove up to the house. Climbing out of his car, the man stretched his arms over his head and let out a tired sigh. "Uncle Johnny!" a small voice chirped, earning the attention of the man. Sally dropped the jump rope she was playing with and ran over to the family member, hugging him.
Uncle Johnny!
"Hey, Sal, how have you been?" he asked, lifting the girl up with ease, giving her a proper hug. The girl giggled and looked back at her friends, who were now waving in their direction. "I've been playing with Sarah and Jenny. Let's go inside and tell Mama you're here." "Sounds like a good idea." He smiled and walked inside the house, calling out to the woman. "Marie, I'm here," he called, followed by Sally.
Oh, there's something fishy about the uncle.
Here.
I don't know what it is.
The housewife hurried out of the kitchen and smiled to see Johnny made it. "Johnny, you're here safe and sound." The man placed the girl down on the ground and gave her bottom a pat to send her off, and hugged the woman. "Of course I did. Why else wouldn't I come here safe and sound?" He laughed, walking into the kitchen with the woman. Sally trotted over to the front door, calling out that she was going back outside to play. "Make sure you come in before dark." "Yes, ma'am." And off the girls went. As dinner drew near, Sally's father came home, happy to see his brother was there as well. Walking in with his daughter, he strolled up to Johnny with a handshake and hug. "Nice to see you, man. How have you been?" he asked, crossing his arms, watching his wife set the table up for supper. Johnny gave a shrug of his shoulders, fiddled with his thumbs. He and Karen split up. "Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry." Johnny shook his head with a smile. "Nah, it's all right. I'm happy. I can move freely without having someone constantly wanting to know where I am and what I'm doing." The two men laughed together, and making their way to the table to eat. Marie, this is wonderful." "Thank you. I'm glad you like it." It's yummy, Mama." Adults smiled and chuckled from their child's praise.
Ha!
Plate after plate was empty, and Sally began to yawn over and over again, rubbing her eyes with her hands. Her mother smiled and gently rubbed her back. "It looks like someone's tired. Time for bed." Sally nodded and hopped off her seat, picking up her plate and carrying it over to the sink. Her mother rose up to take her to bed, but stopped from John grabbing a hold of her arm. "I'll take her to bed," he smiled, earning one in return. "All right. Thank you, John." The man nodded.
There's
watching
something
woman
about
making
the
her
uncle. I don't
way to clean
know.
dishes and put up the leftovers. Then looked to see his brother leaving for the bathroom to wash up, and followed after the young girl to her room. John smiled and closed the door behind him, watching the girl rummage around through her dresser for pajamas to wear. "You need any help?" he asked, watching the girl look up and nod. "Okay, let's see what you got." The man waltzed up beside her and began looking through her various pajamas. "You've got some strawberry printed ones. I bet you'll smell just like
Okay,
them."
it's not too weird yet, but
He took the shirt up and showed her, giving it a few inhales. Sally giggled and shook her head, indicating she didn't want to wear her strawberry pajamas. Johnny nodded and placed the shirt back, and picked up another shirt with a unicorn on it. "How about this one? I bet you'll ride on Miss Unicorn here." Again the child giggled and shook her head no. The man let out a small huff before putting it back. Then took out a regular white nightgown. "How about this? Be able to turn into a princess with this." Sally's eyes lit up and clapped her hands excitedly, and nodded. Placing the gown on her bed, he reached over to her and began to unbutton her shirt. "I can get dressed, Uncle," she said with a smile, looking down at his hands on her shirt. The man smiled back and nodded, continuing to work his way down her shirt. "I bet you can. But you're tired, and why not have some help?" he asked, watching Sally nod a few times.
that's a little
Once getting her
weird.
shirt unbuttoned, he slipped it off her shoulders and gave her tummy a nice poke, making her giggle. He grinned, took a hold of the rim of her shorts, and pulled them down. Finally, the man grabbed a hold of her nightgown and pushed the opening over her head, making sure her arms could go through the sleeves. "All done," he said happily, watching the girl smile back, giggling, when she bounded on top of her bed. Johnny rose up and picked up her clothes. The door opened up, and in walked Sally's mother, coming to tuck her in. "You ready for bed?" she asked, walking around the bed. Johnny looked up and hurried over to the other side of the bed. "I'll tuck her in. That okay?" Marie looked up at him, smiled, shaking her head. "Of course."
The uncle
She
wants
looked
to
down at her
help a
daughter
little
and
too much for the
kissing
little
the child on the
girl.
forehead. "Good night, sweetheart." "Good night, Mama." Giving the girl a gentle rub with her thumb on her forehead, the woman took the clothes Johnny had and made her way out of the room. Johnny smiled to the mother and walked over to the light switch, flicking it off. He carefully closed the door to her room and locked it. Slowly he looked over his shoulder towards Sally. Johnny wore a chilling, crooked smile. After the next few days, Marie noticed that Sally wasn't acting herself. She wasn't smiling as brightly as she did. She wasn't chipper, or spoke with the same amount of
Oh,
happiness.
what the hell did Johnny
Marie took a
do?
hold of the child's hand before she left to play with her friends, and took her aside. Sally looked up at her mother with a confused look. "Honey, are you feeling okay?" she asked, kneeling down to be at Sally's height. Sally stared at her idly and slowly began to weep. Her mother widened her eyes in confusion. "Sally?" "Mama, I didn't want to," the girl managed to say through hiccup sobs.
What?
Didn't want to what, sweetie? I didn't want to play. I didn't want to play his game.
Is this like some
The child
fucking
looked at her mother and
pedophile
hugged her
shit?
tight. He touched me and made me touch him.
Oh,
Marie
hell no.
and gently began to stroke the child's hair, comforting her, lightly shushing her to calm her down. "Shh, it's okay. Mama's here now." It was a nightmare, that's all. The girl had a scary nightmare.
It was a
Everything is
nightmare.
fine
The,
now, okay? Don't worry
the
about it.
fucking uncle's visiting and all
She
of a
watched
sudden
Sally
your
look
daughter's
up
telling you this?
Her breathing chopped up from her crying. She smiled. "Okay, Mama."
That should raise some
Mother
suspicion.
smiled and kissed her forehead. "Now go wash up. Don't want to play with your friends with a dirty face." Sally let out a little giggle and ran off to the bathroom to wash her face. Later that day, Johnny and his brother came back from work. Frank sighed, smiling while he saw Sally wave at him. The father waved back and closed the car door, making his way up to the house. Johnny looked at Sally as well and smiled, waving to her. The child's smile slowly wilted, showing less happiness in it, but waved back as well. Johnny also walked inside the house and paused.
That mom should have done something.
Sally, what? Frank asked. She had a nightmare, a very bad one. She said he touched her. Well, who the hell is he? I don't know, Frank. But it was only a nightmare. I just wanted to inform you of what's been going on with her and why she's acting.
How does she know it was a fucking nightmare?
Johnny furrowed his brow in anger. His knuckles turned white, then calmed down quickly. Thinking fast, he put on a smile and walked into the room, making it look like he just walked into their conversation, and rose his brow. Whoops, did I interrupt something? He asked, watching the couple shake their heads. Johnny smiled again and thumbed back into the direction of the car. I'm gonna head to the store. You need anything, Marie? The woman smiled and looked towards the kitchen. Yes, actually, can you get me some eggs, milk, bread, and juice? Johnny nodded, about to leave until he paused. Sally wanted to come along too. Just wanted to inform you. Marie smiled. Thank you, John. He nodded again and made his way out of the house.
I don't think Sally wanted to go
with her friends. He cupped his hands over his mouth. Sally! The child looked up at him and stared. Come on, let's go to the store. John made his way over to the car, gesturing for the girl to follow him. Sally sat there for a moment.
Hell no.
Placed her dolls on the grass. I'll be back. Please watch over Marzipan and Lily for me. Jenny and Sarah smiled and nodded, continuing to play their game of dolls without her. Sally reluctantly made her way around the car, climbing into the passenger seat and buckling herself in.
The sad thing is,
Did Mama want you to go to the store?
This crap happens in real life.
Johnny nodded and put the keys into the ignition, turning it, and backing out of the driveway.
This isn't like some made-up story.
She wanted me to get some food for her. Maybe I can get you something, too. He grinned, looking down at the child. Sally nervously smiled back and looked ahead, watching the scenery pass by. As soon as they got to the road leading to the store, Sally noticed he wasn't slowing down to turn into the parking lot. She furrowed her brow, confused.
Oh, no.
Uncle Johnny, the store is back that way, she said, pointing in the direction of the Whole Food store. But nothing came from the man. He just continued driving, a very faint smile on his face. The child sat up and looked past the back seat.
This is messed up.
Grow smaller till it was out of sight. Realizing they weren't going to the grocery store, the child watched her uncle drive into the small parking lot in the community park near town. No one went to the park on Sundays. Sally felt nervous. Her breathing quickened, watching the man with wide eyes. Johnny put the car into park and turned the ignition off, looking to the child, anger obviously showing in his features. You told your mom what happened, didn't you? He asked, watching the girl frantically shake her head no. You're not playing the game right, Sally. His tone almost had a slight singing tone. The man reached over and pulled the girl to him, ignoring the struggling she was putting up and her whimpering pleas. You said you'd play the game with me, Sally. You lied to me. Opening the car door beside him, the man climbed out along with the child and shoved her to the ground, quickly pinning her down, ignoring the cries and writhing the child was making. You have to be punished now for breaking the rules, he said in that slightly singing tone, and began to unbuckle his belt. This just in. A couple finds the body of 8-year-old Sally Williams in the community park. The week-long search is now closed. More tonight at 9.
He freaking killed her?
She could have sworn that she closed her door before climbing into bed. Guess I forgot. Getting up from the warmth and comfort of her bed, the teen made her way across the room to shut the door. Before she could climb back into her covers, a creak outside in the hall rose up. Were her parents up? They must have checked on her to see if she was sleeping or something. As soon as she got her legs covered up, the teen froze to hear a faint sound of crying, though it sounded like a child. Slowly rising up from bed once more, the girl made her way to the door and opened it.
What?
Crying seemed to be louder outside her room. Peering down the darkness, the teen crept down the hallway, following the sound of the whimpering. Once getting to the end of the hall, the girl gasped. Sitting on the floor in front of the moonlit window was a little girl. She was hunched over, crying. How did she get into their house? Through the window? Swallowing hard, the teen spoke. Who are you? How did you get into my house? She asked. Suddenly the crying stopped. The child slowly moved her trembling hands away from her face and looked behind her, twitching lightly. Blood replaced her tears, staining her hands. There was a deep clot of blood and hair on the side of her head. Blood leaking from the wound down her face and onto her dirty nightgown. Her bright green eyes seemed like they saw right through her soul. This is my house, the child spoke, her voice raspy, sounding as if she's struggling to speak.
Oh, God.
The girl's body twitched and wiggled oddly as she rose to her feet and turned to face the teen. Her feet were dirty, as if she was running through mud. Scrapes covered her knees and legs, and the end of her gown was torn and tattered. The name Sally sewn into the front. Reaching out with her blood-soaked hand, the girl slowly smiled, blood staining her teeth as she spoke. Play with me.
Jeez! Oh, gosh. Alright, guys, that was Creepypasta Sally, Play With Me. That was a little more disturbing than I was initially thinking the story would be about. Jeez. Freaking pedophile uncle apparently, and freaking murdered his niece. Never says if he got caught or what the hell happened, but I guess that's just not part of the story. Jeez, God. Well, if you guys enjoy scary creepypasta reactions like this, make sure and smack the like button and subscribe if you're new. Oh, excuse me. If you have another video you want me to react to, comment down below. And yeah, guys, until next time, peace.